As President Trump heads to the border tonight, talks in D.C. to avert another shutdown, they have stalled. Both sides seeming to get even farther apart. Then, new court documents show just where Bob Mueller could be headed in the Russia probe. A former federal prosecutor joins to take a look at the significance of the new revelations. Also, I'm telling you what you already know, but it's tax time, and some leading Democrats, they're talking about hiking taxes on the wealthiest among us. We'll take a look at how this would all work and also how people are responding. The numbers may surprise you. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks for joining us. Now, a few hours from now, President Trump will hold a rally in El Paso, Texas. Of course, he's going to continue to push for that border wall of his. Now, while the president is speaking, Beto O'Rourke, he'll be holding a counter rally. The former Texas congressman and Senate candidate, and perhaps even future presidential hopeful, he will be a half a mile away. O'Rourke, the strongest critic of the president's immigration policies. Meanwhile, in D.C., shutdown talks, they are at an impasse. As mentioned in Thursday's deadline, it is fast approaching. President Trump back on the road and taking his pitch for a border wall with him. Tweeting, "We will be heading to El Paso very soon. Big speech on border security and much else tonight. Tremendous crowd. See you later." President, he's often used the border wall as an example.
The border city of El Paso, Texas, used to have extremely high rates of violent crime. With a powerful barrier in place, El Paso is one of the safest cities.
Before he's even arrived, city officials pre-butted the president.
For the president to claim we are safe because of a wall is an insult.
And the El Paso Times evaluated FBI data from 2 years before the fence was built to 2 years after and found the violent crime rate in El Paso increased by 17% during that same time. Most migrants arriving now claiming asylum.
Both of my parents were assassinated by death squads in my country.
And according to CBP's Customs and Border Protection's own data, roughly 4% of all arrests had criminal histories. Lawmakers only have 4 days left to come to a deal. Right now, the two sides disagree over how many unauthorized immigrants they can detain.
This has become pretty much an ego negotiation. This really isn't over substance.
Over the last, 24 hours or so, the goalposts have been moving from the Democrats.
Democrats now want to limit the number of beds at detention centers, hoping to force ICE to prioritize violent criminals, while Republicans want the bed number to go up, putting their hopes of announcing a deal today on hold. El Paso's mayor also speaking out about the president's claims about his city. Take a listen.
We were going back to 2005, one of the safest cities in the nation. The barrier went up and the fence went up, and it's only about 10 miles long, and the total fencing in the El Paso sector is about 78 miles, and it's not continuous.
And joining us now for more White House reporter, former McClatchy, Franco Ordonez. And Franco, is this just posturing just a few days out from the second deadline for a shutdown, or are really the two sides very far apart when it comes to a deal that they can put in front of the president?
I think they're certainly scrambling. I mean, there's certainly concern from the sides of whether a deal would be reached. I mean, this is Washington, especially today. There's always some posturing involved. But the White House came out pretty forcefully today, speaking to reporters on the record about this, raising serious concerns about some of the demands that the Democrats want in limiting detention space for those here illegally. I think it's a real possibility. It was always going to be a difficult to get an agreement to avert another situation like we had before. So we'll see. We may be heading for another shutdown. I mean, it is possible.
But you know, Frank,
as hard as it is to believe.
I know. I really thought it was going to be over. Give him something face-saving. He's not going to get his $5.7 billion for the wall, but give him a fraction of it. Call other border security measures. Call it a day. Let him sign and claim victory, even if it doesn't really look that way. The detention space, and specifically the number of beds, all of a sudden, at least it appears like that's come out of left field. How much of a real sticking point is that, and what are they really fighting over?
It is a sticking point. It is definitely new for a lot of people here in Washington. You know, we've heard these type of conversations before, but not in, recent months. It's a matter of, detention beds for the Democrats. They say it's about focusing the administration, making sure that they're prioritizing the detention beds for those who are very dangerous, who are really dangerous criminals, and not just laborers who are working in the fields. On the administration's perspective, though, is like you can't limit those who are here and who have broken laws, whatever those laws may be, and they should not be handcuffed about, to lack of a pun, by who they should and can't detain. So it is very interesting that this had happened because it certainly looked like the Democrats were going to give at least some money for a wall.
Franco, let's do the optics of tonight in El Paso. And I know you cover immigration for McClatchy too. It's interesting to me when you do the fact check in the State of the Union, just the historicals attached to El Paso in terms of where the crime was in the before and the after of the wall. The wall as being, if you listen to the president, the one and only reason that there were security improvements, even though some of the numbers even point a different picture. The mayor, a Republican in El Paso, is clearly taking the president to task. Did the White House advance team, did they drop the ball here? Because it looks like there's a potential for a hot mess tonight in Texas.
I think you're right. I think it is definitely potential of a hot mess. At the same time that President Trump is going to be declaring that narrative that you kind of outlined, you have the mayor of El Paso absolutely contradicting that, going to be showing different numbers that paint a different story. You're also going to have Beto O'Rourke, having his own rally in support of his measures and in opposition of President Trump. Even just that he's going to El Paso, it's not necessarily a place that you would always think of. Yes, there is a wall there. Yes, he wants to at least say that the wall was, a reason for some of the security. But it's also, in a way, kind of a shot across the bow to Beto O'Rourke, to basically going in his neighborhood and saying, hey, look, I'm the president here. Maybe hold your horses a bit.
Help us out, Franco, a little bit, because it surprises a lot of folks from at least our part of the country that there are as many Republicans, whether their districts or even their states are on the border, that have not taken remotely as hard a line on this or the need for a wall as the president. I'm not universally saying that, of course, there's exceptions, but it's not just this congressman. There are others, too, and even governors, even Republican senators, who are not nearly as visceral about a need for a wall along the border. What is the reality along the border as to why they feel differently than Trump?
There's not many, local state leaders in Texas where the border would be who actually want this border wall. I mean, there's so many questions. There's so much of a debate. How useful a wall is. You ask Border Patrol agents, they will tell you that a wall can be helpful in certain sections of high trafficked areas. But overall, many experts will tell you that if there is a demand by people to come to the United States, they're going to find a way to get to the United States. They may be fleeing violence. They may not be fleeing violence, but kind to try to get more economic opportunities. What they see is jobs and opportunity, not necessarily a wall. Or they may see loved ones who are already here and they want to be reunited with them. And again, it would take a lot of work to build a wall long enough to prevent anyone from going across. It just doesn't seem reasonable. Even the hardliners, immigrant hardliners groups, they're not necessarily, they don't even think it's the most biggest priority. They would rather have like worker verification systems. They would rather have stronger internal enforcement, issues like that.
Frank, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And when we come back, a former federal prosecutor joins us with the very latest on the Russia probe, including some breadcrumbs that Bob Mueller is leaving behind that could show us where this thing is heading.